What is up, everybody? It's your boy Bobby from Bobby's Breakdowns, and today we are going to be doing our first movie review of 2024. Yes, it took a while for a movie to catch my interest coming out into theaters. I gotta be honest with you, the movie lineup this year is pretty weak, at least for like the first 6 months. In July, it picks up a little with Deadpool, and I'm not sure what else is coming out. I'll be at the movies later this year, but to start off 2024, the lineup was really weak. But I had hopes for this movie, Civil War, and we will be reviewing it, and my hopes were, well, let's just say shattered. But with that being said, let's dive right in. We start off with my man, Ron Swanson, aka Nick Offerman. He plays the President of the United States in this movie. And honestly, I thought he had a much bigger role, and him having such a small role told me everything I needed to know about this movie. If only I would have known going in, folks. But like I said, Nick Offerman plays the President of the United States in this movie. He is doing a speech beforehand saying the people of Texas and California have to change their ways, the government, before he lets them back into the United States. Solid plot, but we'll get into that. Then we go to the main character of the movie, Kirsten Dunst. She is a photographer of some sorts. The very first scene, they go to a riot scene. One cop hits one of the rioters in the face with a nightstick. It was kind of crazy. We find out Dunst's character's name is Lee Smith, semi-famous photographer, and that is my dog barking if you hear that. We see a woman running in the streets. We see American flags getting burned. Big explosions happen. Very graphic, very bloody. It goes very silent. It was shot pretty well. It's about the only good thing I could say about this movie. But we see Lee give up her vest to a younger woman. That comes into play soon. We go inside, they're recovering. Lee says her plan is to photograph the president while Joel, the male main character, is going to interview the President of the United States. Then we see Jessie, the girl from before. She runs into Lee. Jessie's like a fangirl. She wants to be like her. And Lee shows her some stuff, and it's not so pretty, but Lee is trying to tell her, like, don't be like me. You don't want to do this. This isn't cut out for everyone. And that's a running theme in this movie. So Lee walks out of the hotel to see Jessie in the car with a character named Sammy, who we meet, and Joel. Lee is not happy she's in there, so Lee questions Joel, and Joel's like, she wanted to come, I don't know. And Lee was like, all right, whatever, but she doesn't come past a certain town, I can't remember. But Lee was not happy with Jessie at first, and Joel, but eventually Lee comes around. She starts taking Jessie under her wing. It's kind of nice, but Lee is still like, she really wants nothing to do with her. We see a scene where there's a shootout going on, and Lee is taking pictures, but Jessie's kind of scared because she's in her 20s, I believe. And Lee's like, hey, this is kind of part of the job. If you want to do this, you got to be ready for no matter what. They eventually get to a nice part of town after we see everything go down through Jessie's lens. They come across a winter wonderland. Now, they didn't specify what time of year this movie was, but it didn't look like Christmas time, so that was kind of red flag number one to me. I don't know. I wrote in here, never trust a frosty in June or July, whatever it is. I know it's Christmas in July, but they run into some army guys. Probably one of the better scenes of the movie. The army guys are actually, like, very funny. They talk about the press, and they're like, can you please just shut up while we're trying to do our job? That was, like, one of the not many funny parts of this movie, for sure. They eventually get back on the road, and Kirsten Dunst is driving Lee. She notices a car following them in the distance. She's like, radar's going off, but she doesn't really think anything of it at first. Then it keeps getting closer and closer, and they were just like, let him pass, don't worry. Then all of a sudden, the car comes right next to them at driving, and they're just looking at them, and they're afraid to look at first, and they look over. It's Joel's friends. They're playing a joke on them. They followed them. I don't know how they knew, but they have a funny back and forth. The one character's name from the other car is Tony. Tony jumps into the car alongside. They're just having fun. Jessie eventually gets involved. She jumps in the other car, and they drive off. Lee is like, where did they go? So they're trying to find them because they're like, hey, Jessie was in that car. We got to get her back. Lee is coming around to her. And we find out that Jessie is being held hostage. And we see a very familiar face come into play. I honestly thought he had a bigger role in this movie, but we finally see Jesse Plemons. He doesn't have a character name in the movie, so I'm going to call him Jesse Plemons for the amount of time he's in it. He's one of the soldiers holding Jessie hostage. Jesse Plemons eventually shoots the 2 Hong Kong guys that were with Tony earlier, and we quickly find out that Jesse Plemons' character is all about America. Wants nothing to do with you if you're not American, and he will shoot you, as he did the 2 guys from Hong Kong. So he grills Lee, Joel, and Jesse. Jesse's like, I'm from Missouri, and he's like, oh, cool, why do they call it the whatever state? Joel says he's from Florida. He's like, cool, that works. And eventually he gets to Tony, and Tony's like shaking. He's like, but buddy, do you speak English? Tony's like, yeah. He's like, all right, just tell me where you're from. Only question. And Tony says, Hong Kong. And he goes, oh, Hong Kong. Boom. Shoots him right there. Tony, all you had to do was say you were from anywhere in America, and Jesse Plemons would have let you go. I don't know why you didn't do that. As you can see, the 3 people, they said they were from United States. They gave their state. And he was like, oh, cool. That's part of the United States. Tony, what were you thinking, man? It's about to get really bad with Jesse Plemons and them because he thinks they're working with the Hong Kongs, and Jesse Plemons doesn't like that. So it's about to go really bad until Sammy comes and runs over Jesse Plemons. Boom. Jesse Plemons was in this movie maybe 5 minutes. Maybe. I think he was in it longer than Nick Offerman, but both of them, I would say, had less than 10 minutes of screen time total, which is kind of a letdown. But Jesse Plemons' other guards are shooting at the car as it's driving off. We think they're all safe and sound, and we eventually figure out Sammy got shot. So they have to pull over. They get to Charlottesville. Unfortunately, Sammy is dead, and we're getting towards the end of the movie. They finally make it to DC without Sammy, unfortunately, and it looks like a complete war zone. Bombs everywhere, tanks everywhere. We see a car leave the White House. They think it's the president, so they stop it. They open the doors. He's nowhere to be found. Decoy car. You should know the president would have had a better escape route than to just go through those nasty streets with all that going on. Come on. The 3 of them eventually make it to the White House. Jesse, Joel, Lee. They're passing by dead bodies. They are willing to negotiate the release of the president for safety with that group, but it went south once they shot one of the White House workers. Just use your words, people. Actions sometimes aren't needed. To whoever made the trailer for this movie, you did a really good job, because you gave me hope for this movie, and I was really excited to see it until I left the theaters. You deserve a raise. The movie was a complete letdown. I don't know how it's doing at the box office. I'll get that in a minute. But 3 out of 10. Not a good start to the movies for the year. And like I said, it was a sign because the movies are kind of weak this year. So far. But 3 out of 10. I had really high hopes for this movie, and I was really, really disappointed. I thought I was getting a movie with a lot of action. It turns out it was just a photography movie. It inspired me to maybe take a photography class, though. That's about all it did on their end. So the budget for this movie was $50 million. At the time of recording, it's made $110.8 million. So movie going wise, that's a success. As long as you make double your budget back, it's pretty much a success. So I really hope we don't get a sequel. But movie going wise, it's technically a success. Not in my eyes, but that's the beauty of it. Let me know what you thought about Civil War in the comments below. But until next time, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Plenty more content coming, folks. Got a fun video coming up. Reach out to me if you saw my story. And yeah, we'll get going. But until next time, I am Bobby from Bobby's Breakdowns, and we will see you in the next one. Later.